Awesome. Let's kick it off. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week as we welcome Aric Almirola, driver of the number 10 Smithfield Ford Mustang for Stewart Haas Racing. In addition to his Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race at Sonoma, he'll also be driving in the DoorDash 250 NASCAR Xfinity event on Saturday. So we'll get right into questions, if any of you all have any. Mitchell, kick us off.
Aric, as mentioned, you are running the Xfinity Series race this weekend. How much of a benefit is that to you to get that extra track time at Sonoma?
Um, I don't know that it's super beneficial, to be honest. I just love that road course. Of all the road courses that we run, it's my favorite. I run the best there. And so having the opportunity to run an Xfinity car there, something that, is new for that series, I just thought that it would be a great opportunity and something for me to go and do. And I think it is slightly helpful just to get some more reps at the road courses, because with only 20 minutes of practice, you don't get a lot of laps in the Cup car. So just being able to pick up, little things here and there on the racetrack maybe helps a little bit, but the cars are so different nowadays. With the brakes, the way the cars drive, the transmission, all those things, that a lot of it doesn't really correlate at all.
Thank you.
We'll go to Bob Pockrass next.
Yeah, Aric, how do you feel like you guys are doing as far as, everybody appears the Fords we're a little bit off on downforce on the intermediates. Where do you feel like you are? And did Blaney's win at Charlotte give you guys any maybe extra either hope or direction?
I think that we have potential in our cars, right? Blaney at Charlotte showed that. I still think that our cars are really aero sensitive in traffic compared to the other manufacturers. Blaney did a great job of executing for all 600 miles and never really lost his track position. So when you look at that, I think that's a key component of it. I feel like our cars have the capability and the potential to go fast, but one of the things we're continuing to work on is just making our cars raceable. It seems like we don't quite have that figured out as well as the other manufacturers as far as being able to race in traffic. I know that all the cars are bad in traffic, but it seems like we tend to be a little bit worse in traffic than our competition. So that's one of the things that we're continuing to strive to get better at, is making our cars better in dirty air. But we certainly know that we have potential to make our race cars go fast. We got to execute. And I feel like one last thing to add to that is I feel like as a manufacturer, if you talk to all the Ford drivers, I feel like our window is pretty small. If we hit it, we hit it. And if you're slightly off, you're really off. Where it does seem like the competition has a little bit bigger of a window to be closer to hitting the setup.
And is there anything that you noticed from COTA with a road course race without cautions at the stage breaks, and how you think it'll be different at Sonoma this time?
I think at COTA, it made the strategy a little bit more straightforward. And now I think it's going to be the same at Sonoma. When you look at the race and the strategy play for Sonoma, it makes the race relatively straightforward with where you're going to pit. There's a couple lap window here or there on what you're going to do for strategy. So it really takes away, in my opinion, from the strategy aspect of it. Last year at Sonoma was a perfect example. We went there and we had a really good car, but we chose to score as many stage points as we could with this position that we were in points going to Sonoma. And so we finished fifth in stage 1. We finished second in stage 2 because we elected to stay out on the racetrack and score stage points. And then, after the stage breaks, we had to come back through the field on newer tires compared to the other guys that pitted a couple laps before the end of the stage. And so we constantly battled from poor track position, driving through the field, and then staying out at the stages to score points, where now there's not that opportunity. So it doesn't really jumble up or mix the field up as much. It's more about qualifying well and then just making sure that you pit when you're supposed to pit.
And do you have any sort of timetable, like where you feel like you have to make a decision for next year, or is it pretty much just kind of flow and fluid?
I think it's still very fluid. I don't have any timetable. By this time last year, what I thought was going to happen ended up not happening. So yeah, I think for me, it's still just get up every morning and continue to work hard at being the best race car driver I can be, and we'll see where things shake out.
Thank you.
We'll go to Trey Downey next.
Hey, Aric, after the off week, we head to Nashville. The first year there, you sat on the pole, ran in the top 5 all day. Last year, it's kind of a middle of the pack run. Just how different is that track in the next gen car? And do you think you learned anything last year that can, maybe get you to have a similar performance to what you had in 21?
I do think we learned some things last year at Nashville, where we missed the setup and where we felt like we were off. So I do look forward to going back there. I really enjoy that racetrack. It's a track that I liked a lot when I ran trucks and Xfinity races there. And then first time there in a cup car, qualified on the pole, ran top 5. So it's a place that I really enjoy running at. And I hope that, we learned from some of the things we felt like we did wrong last year with this new car that will make us better.
And then this weekend at Sonoma, after that, we've still got 3 more road course races before the playoffs: Chicago, Indy, and Watkins Glen. Just where do you think your overall road course package is as a team right now, and where do you think you are as a road racer?
Well, I can grade myself first and say that I am average at best road racer at most road courses. And at Sonoma, I'm a B plus. I would say Sonoma is hands down my best road course. And I feel like that's because it's not really one of those racetracks that you can attack because the surface and the way the tires wear out. It's more of a rhythm racetrack, and it's kind of flowy, and you can't really attack the racetrack or you'll abuse your tires and really pay a huge penalty after 5-6 laps on tires. And I do better at that. Even short track racing, Richmond, Loudon, those places like that you have to take care of your stuff, I tend to do much better at. And the places that you have to, be overly aggressive and really attack the racetrack and attack the braking zones are not my best places. And so road course racing, those racetracks that you have to really attack the braking zones and do all those things, I tend to not be as good at. And I feel like as an organization, we have a lot of room for improvement to make our road course stuff better. I think that we have been average at best as an organization with this next gen car at most road courses, not all of them, but at most of them, we have struggled to make our car, get in the braking zones as hard as the competition. We've struggled to get the Ford drive off of the corners to compete. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do better for sure.
Do you have any idea where Chicago will fall in that in terms of is that going to be one where you're going to have to be super aggressive? I imagine so, with probably the lack of passing opportunities there.
Yeah, I think Chicago's certainly going to be a racetrack that you're going to have to be very aggressive. The surface is going to be very interesting, where they've repaved or where they've not repaved. What we've learned so far in the simulator is that it's pretty low grip, what we think, and it's pretty rough. And there's a lot of tight blind corners. Gonna have to be really aggressive in the braking zones, get in the corners deep, but still make the corner. And there's a huge penalty at Chicago compared to all the other road courses that we go to if you don't make the corner. So I think you're going to have to not only be aggressive, but you're going to have to be conscious of how aggressive you are, because the penalty for missing the corner at Chicago is going to be far greater than missing the corner at most road courses. Most road courses, if you overshoot the corner, you run off into the grass or the gravel a little bit. At Chicago, you're going to crash. You're going to hit a wall.
Thank you.
Let's go to Eddie Kalegi.
Hey, Aric, Eddie Kalegi, Motorsports Today. You talked about earlier the enjoyment you get racing at Sonoma Raceway, and we talked about the changes with the stage breaks, but another change the track has had over the last few years is going back and forth between the carousel and the chute, then the carousel for 2 years, back to the chute. I'm curious, for someone who's run both of the layouts, where you kind of fall on that debate.
I love the chute. The carousel was cool to do it for me once, just so I could say I had that experience to run it like they used to run it in the old days, when Ricky Rudd, and Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace and those guys would duke it out there. But for me, I absolutely love the chute, and I love that it gives you that opportunity to make some passes getting into turn 7, if you get off of turn 4 well. And the carousel just never really presented that opportunity with the cars the way they are nowadays, versus the old days. Our cars are so much more aero sensitive. And so going through the carousel was so tough to run behind somebody, that you would give up too much of a gap off the carousel to whoever you were racing with, that you didn't really have that opportunity to make a pass into turn 7 and outbreak them. Where now with the turn 4, hopping that curb and going over the other side to the other curb, there's a lot of opportunity to maintain your position relative to the car in front of you, and then have an opportunity to outbreak them getting into turn 7. So I love the short chute.
Thanks. Best of luck this weekend.
Thanks.
Let's go to Chris Osborne.
Hey, Aric, Chris Osborne, Robbins Racing News. Thanks for joining us today. Towards the end of last year, you guys announced that you changed your mind on retirement. You were coming back for 2 more years with Smithfield. But I keep reading all these articles that are kind of conflicting that, and I want to know from the source, is the plan still 2 more years full time and see what happens then?
The plan is fluid. I think for me, it's still about making sure that I'm having fun and enjoying driving the race car, and making sure that I can be, a husband and a father and all those things, and not sacrifice that. I love what I do. I love my job. I love my career. But at the end of the day, chasing a little bit more money and more trophies and those things is not what it's about for me. And so as much as I love my job and all those things, I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing by my family as well. And so those are conversations that I'll continue to have internally here, and I'll let you guys know when you guys need to know.
Absolutely. I can totally respect that. I think everyone could. And then one more thing. You probably know this. I'm sure you do. Anthony Alfredo's nickname, he gave himself Fast Pasta. Have you considered a nickname like Racing Bacon?
I have not considered that, but now that you've mentioned it, I'll take that home and think really hard about it.
Please do. I would love that. All right, man. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We'll go to Kelly Crandall next.
Thanks, Brendan. Hey, Aric, I want to go kind of outside the box here. When you look at your tenure at Stewart-Haas, you came over in 2018, had a career year, right? Top 5 in points and got that win. The last couple of years, I think you admit, though, it's been a little bit of a challenge, right? Do you think about kind of how that's turned out, where you come over, you get in this car, and obviously it's a championship organization, and just kind of, again, I guess just a little bit of a challenge that it's been the last couple of years. That can't be what you expected.
No, certainly not what I expected. I expected more years like the first year, to be honest. I showed up here in 2018 and we not only won a race, but I was in contention to win probably 5 or 6 races throughout that year, and, consistently ran in the top 10, top 5. Was a team that, on any given weekend we showed up to a racetrack, felt like we could win. And, that has certainly not been the case the last couple of years. So, disappointing, for sure. But a lot of this is, part of the sport too. Our sport is very cyclical. There's some teams that, stay on top most of the time, but even the best teams, I mean, you can look at Hendrick Motorsports, and there was a couple year period there where they struggled. You've seen it happen with other race teams. You've seen Roush go from being one of the most dominant teams in the garage area to not. Penske is pretty steady Eddie, but even they've had years where they've been off as well. And for us, it's been that way. We had a great year in 2018, not only for me personally, but organizationally, with winning a lot of races. Then we went into 2019 and we weren't quite as good as 2018 as an organization. 2020, we were still just okay, but we weren't as dominant and as good as we had been in the past years. And so I feel like, for me, I totally anticipated coming over here and having success and building on that success to, having an opportunity to go and compete to be a champion. And so, yeah, that hasn't came to fruition, and I'm certainly disappointed about it. But at the end of the day, that doesn't define me as a human being. I certainly, as a race car driver, always want more, and want to be a champion, want to win multiple races in a year. And I have all of those lofty goals, but, sometimes things don't always go the way you want them to.
Along those same lines, in a previous question, you were talking about you love what you do and having fun, and of course the family aspect. So given everything that also you just said, is there a little bit of, you have to embrace that challenge as well, of, again, wanting to be the best race car driver and knowing that it's not going to come easy, and kind of just embrace that fight to get what you want?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, life's not easy. Everybody has good days and bad days. Everybody has good years and bad years. There's seasons to life. There's seasons to a career. And so for me, it doesn't water down the fact that I'm still racing at the highest level of stock car auto racing, something that I dreamed about as a kid. I'm getting to live out my childhood dream, driving a NASCAR Cup Series car, against 39 of the other best race car drivers in the world that drive stock cars. So I am very appreciative and very grateful of what I get to do. Do I want, more wins and championships and all those things? Absolutely. I'm a competitive person. But at the end of the day, you sit there and you look at Richard Petty, who is the king of our sport. And I've gotten the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Richard, and he doesn't ever sit down at Thanksgiving with all 200 of his trophies, ever. He sits down at Thanksgiving with his family. And he sits down, to share a meal with people he cares about. And so, all the time that I've ever gotten to spend with him and talk about things outside of racing and talking about life, he's been a huge impact on me, just being able to recognize and realize that you don't always have to chase the success, because it doesn't really define who you are. once you stop driving a race car. What defines who you are is how you treat other people and how you are with the people you love. And so, yeah, I mean, I think as a competitive person, I want to win everything, but the reality is that's not the case.
Thank you, Aric.
We're gonna go to Lee and then finish out with Dustin. Lee, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Aric.
Yeah.
Talking about people you love, I saw the picture with you and Alex after he won Little League, and how rewarding is it just to kind of spend time with him and, have those moments that a lot of guys just don't take the time to have.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Those are the moments for me that at this point in life, like I absolutely cherish those moments. I can honestly tell you that I was as happy and as excited that he won his baseball championship with his team as I've been winning a cup race. I mean, literally, and he won a Little League game, like a Little League championship. Like, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. But what was a big deal was just to see him cherish that moment, to see him enjoy the success of the practice and the hard work and all the lessons and the hitting lessons and all the things, to see him reap the benefit is awesome. And I'm so glad that I was there to share that with him. And when the game was over, to see him come and jump up into my arms and give me a big hug. It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. And, I grew up playing baseball and team sports. I played basketball and, I love playing team sports. I love the fact that Alex is involved in team sports, and it's fun to share moments like that with my kids. Same for Abby. She was the lead. She had a lead role in her theater show this year. She'd been working for the last 4 years to, transition from being just a part of the cast, being in what they call ensemble, to getting a lead role. And so she had a lead role, and she was Simba in Lion King. And to watch her perform on stage and watch her take ownership and watch all the practice that she puts in and the training, the singing lessons and all the stuff, and then to see her go and perform on stage and to have the success that she has and to share that with her, like, as a dad, like, it just makes me so proud, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Has Alex shown any interest in racing?
Very little, and I'm totally good with that. Yeah.
The reason I ask you is I was at the dirt track last week here at Tri-City, and Kyle and Brexton were out there, and I mentioned it to Joey, and he just started racing with his oldest, and he said that the level of pressure that they're putting on these kids at this age just seemed kind of ridiculous. But you see both sides of it, whether it's team sport, individual, and to hear you talk of that elation, I'm not really getting that vibe at the dirt track with these kids these days.
Yeah, and for me, we did a little bit of it. We raced for a year with Alex, and I didn't love it. I showed up at the racetrack and was head down working on his go-kart to figure out how to make it go as fast as it could. I was constantly critiquing him and criticizing him on what he needed to do better. There was what I felt to be an immense amount of pressure on him, for sure. And to go out and perform, you show up at a go-kart track and you're racing against a lot of other kids that their dads are quote unquote normal dads. They work normal jobs. And his dad is a race car driver, so naturally he should be good. I think the amount of pressure that it puts on those kids, and some kids can handle it and some kids can't, right? But I see I see what Keelan's doing. I see what Brexton's doing. I see what Owen Larson's doing and all those kids. And man, I just remember what it was like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old and I was starting out go-kart racing. And, I went purely as a hobbyist. Like we went and we had fun, and yeah, we had success, and I ran really good and won, state championships and national championships. But at the end of the day, like we rode up and down the road as a family in a dually and a trailer, and it was just fun. There was no real pressure. Like if we didn't win, I didn't have to answer to sponsors or social media or any of that stuff that these kids nowadays have to. They have a fan following at 10 years old or younger, and they have to come up with excuses on weekends that they run bad. Like for a 9-year-old, I just feel like that's totally unfair. They're selling merchandise and doing all those things, which I think is awesome. Like it gives these kids wonderful opportunities to have such a head start on building a career. And I know that things, nowadays are going younger and younger. And so by all means, that is arguably the best way to groom them to be professional race car drivers. But I just remember for me at 10 years old, I was not thinking about being groomed as a professional race car driver. I was just doing it because I loved it. And it was way more fun, to go 60 miles an hour in a go-kart than it was to wait at shortstop for a ground ball to come my way. All the while, I still love baseball, and I played baseball all the way to high school.
Appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
Dustin, finish us out.
Thanks a lot. A couple of things to kind of follow up there, Aric, and I'm going blank. Are you an assistant coach or help coach your son's team? Are you involved? You are, aren't you?
I am an assistant coach. I refuse to be the head coach, but I totally enjoy helping and teaching the kids the fundamentals of baseball.
And the trophy that Alex won, so did that go into his room, or does that go into a special place in the house and replace one of your trophies?
No, it went in his room on his dresser, front and center.
Great. Hey, I want to ask kind of a racing thing, and I want to kind of get your perspective on this, something a little different. This year, and obviously every year there's different driver crew chief combinations, and we go through that. And so obviously a lot's been talked about with Kyle Busch, with the success he's had and so forth. And I'm curious, with only 20 minutes of practice, and how tough is it to get that driver crew chief relationship, or is that as much now being done in the simulator? I know with Drew, you guys had the past relationship, so that kind of helped things along, but you kind of had to go through that in this time period too. How challenging is it to have that driver crew chief relationship build when there's such limited track time these days?
It is challenging. No doubt about it. It is challenging because, in the old days, you'd show up, you'd practice on Friday, you'd talk about it, you'd qualify Friday evening. After qualifying was over, you'd come up with a game plan with your crew chief for what you're going to do to the car Saturday morning. And typically Saturday morning was the opportunity to kind of experiment, try a few things here and there. And then you talked about it after Saturday morning's practice. And then you would get with your crew chief and your engineers, and you'd put in whatever you thought was going to be the best for happy hour. And then you'd run, 2 runs in happy hour, 2 long runs in happy hour. And when happy hour was over, you'd download some more about it, and you'd come up with a game plan for the race. And so there was a lot of opportunity throughout the course of a weekend to work with your crew chief on the feel you were looking for in the race car. And that is gone. You show up now and kind of what you have is what you got. You can make some few minor adjustments with the heights of the car and the wedge, some sway bar settings and some shocks, and that's it. And air pressures. That's it. That's all you can change. So yeah, I think that communication and that relationship is extremely important. But at the end of the day, what's the most important is just having a fast race car. From a driver's standpoint, You certainly want to have a great relationship with your crew chief, but regardless of the relationship you have with your crew chief, if your crew chief and your engineers and your organization, from the aero department to the vehicle dynamics group to everybody is, supplying you with the fastest race car, you're going to go fast. I mean, that's really it. So I think that's ultimately, the most important thing is making sure that the organization and the crew chiefs and the engineers are all on the same page and putting the best race car on the racetrack. And then at that point, it's up to the driver and crew chief to fine tune it.
Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate you being here with us, Aric, and good luck at Sonoma.
All right. Thanks, guys.